Welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. I am so excited to talk today about my recent book launch. If you follow us at all on social media, you know that I own Body Motion Physical Therapy here in downtown Edmonds, and we focus on helping women through preconception, postpartum, and pregnancy. I said those out of order, but you get the point. So our most exciting thing that's going on right now is I just released a book. And to make it even better, it's become an Amazon bestseller, which I am just beside myself with. So I'm so grateful for everyone who's purchased a book. And I'm really excited for you to read the book and get into it. And I hope you take a lot of value from it. I thought today that I could talk with you guys about really about my personal journey. So kind of everyone keeps asking me, how did you have time to write this book? And, you know, I hear that all the time. Like, how do you have time to do what you do? And so I am going to tell you a little bit about what that looked like for me and my personal journey to writing this book. I'm also going to tell you about my personal health journey as well. That's going to be this episode because I do share that in the book, and it is so real. It is raw. It's what made this book really hard for me to put out. But I want to share it with you because it is out there in the book, and maybe you can relate to it, maybe not, but if you at all can, I hope it helps you in some way or other heal. So the book is called Restore Your Body After Kids: The Secret to Avoid Peeing Your Pants and Achy Joints as You Age. Because who doesn't want to do that, right? I have spent so many years as a PT now, and really my practice focused, on helping women and moms through the adult years and really take control of their health has stemmed from my own personal journey in health and my own personal journey in becoming a mom. So people often ask me how I got into becoming a pelvic floor physical therapist. And the truth is, I was so scared to be a pelvic floor PT. I didn't go to PT school to become a pelvic floor PT. I went to PT school because I wanted to be a hockey PT. I wanted to have a hockey training facility where I could do really focus with athletes, youth athletes, college athletes, all athletes, especially around the hockey realm, because I was a hockey player and I was passionate about hockey. I love training. It was just really what I was drawn to. So I thought that's what kind of PT I was going to be. Then I went to PT school and found out at one lecture where you get one or two lectures from a pelvic floor PT, and they talk about things like urinary incontinence and at least tell you that exists and that there are some PTs that exist to help. There's no training in PT school that tells you how to treat these patients, or no specialized training to allow, to get you capable for treating pelvic floor patients. But it is, at least, it got me thinking. And I had been an athlete, a youth athlete. So from as young of age as sixth grade, that I would pee my pants. So I would run and play soccer. I'd pee my pants. In hockey, I played boys hockey, and I would get hit and I'd pee my pants, leak during games. And that was super embarrassing. I was so stressed. People could smell me in the locker room. My parents always said my gear smelled different than my brother's gear. And I was just always so embarrassed that was because, I peed my pants. And so hearing this lecture now back in PT school about how, pelvic PTs actually have a role in naturally healing people from peeing their pants. And they didn't have to have babies in order to pee their pants, because this whole youth athlete, especially female youth athlete, urinary incontinence is actually a thing that people experience. And there are a lot of girls that experience this. And a lot of times this can be due to just really tight pelvic floors. So I became a pelvic PT, or I got interested in that conversation when I realized that it entailed, doing internal assessments of people's pelvic floor muscles through their vaginas. That freaked me out a bit. It took me more years to have to get confident in really knowing that that's what I would be doing. But then it comes a point where you just don't realize that just becomes second nature because you do that every day. And you gain confidence because you are helping people and changing their lives because they're not having to pee their pants or have painful intercourse. This book goes further than that, though. And so after the years of, working as a sports physical therapist and as a pelvic floor therapist, I really honed down and specialized in this mother period. So really prenatal, even preconception. So we help moms get pregnant as well and help them on their fertility journey. And then we help with the actual pregnancy and prepping for birth, making sure their pelvic floor is dynamic and stretched and coordinated and getting rid of scar tissue that exists, or, helping things get moving. And so that's what we do during pregnancy. To really prepare and train for labor. And then from a postpartum perspective, we help moms restore their bodies, and not just on a pelvic floor level, but their whole entire bodies. So that's what, I got into doing, and that's what the whole practice is about. And this book amplifies exactly what I see in my practice and kind of my journey to establishing our protocols, the journey to establishing what we do for patients, on a transformative level. And I even write about what that transformation looks like in the book and what you should expect, even if you can't have a pelvic floor PT, or you can't come to our clinic here in Edmonds, Washington. We also do telehealth, so we can consult with you across the nation. But from an actual what to expect from the healing process that's outlined in the book. And so my story goes like this. So I going back to the incontinence and then figuring out that PTs help with that, I latched on in grad school to some mentors that really took me under their wing and taught me all about pelvic health and what it looks like to be a pelvic expert physical therapist, helping women across the lifespan. And at that point, after I went into practice, I told you I was in orthopedics. So what that means is people with knee pain or back pain can just go to your PT shop on the corner and get help for that knee or that back or that ankle, whatever it is. And so what I would see is I would see a lot of middle-aged women. So women in their 40s, let's not say 40s is middle age. I'm getting too close to that. No, I'm just kidding. In their 50s and 60s, and they would have hip and knee pain. We'd treat them for that. And then, maybe their other side would start to hurt. They'd get a joint replacement, get an injection. Whatever it is, they end up chasing pains. And so with that, then comes, a life of, having a knee replacement on one side, hip injections on the other, and you're just never getting to the root cause of the problem, which is people not having their pelvic floors after babies. The rate of joint replacement is higher for women than it is for men. And that is, I attribute a lot of what I see to just women not having their cores restored for them after pregnancy, not knowing how to use their diaphragm, not knowing how to use their pelvic floors. And I will tell you, Kegel is absolutely not the answer. And not knowing how to use their ab muscles, and not knowing how to use their butt muscles or their hip muscles. So all of this plays into your ability to reclaim your core and take the pressure off your joints, so you protect your joints and really help balance your body, so you can, from a preventative perspective, not have to deal with joint replacements and achy joints, and not have to deal with peeing your pants and painful intercourse or uncomfortable intercourse or inability to orgasm. These are all the things that we can help prevent from ever happening. So that's the passion. Really, that's why this book came to be. And I kind of lay this all out there in all the chapters in the book. Within the 196 pages that there are, there's different patient examples. There's my own story. There's a program on, how to check yourself for different things and different diagnoses. Then there's also an exercise program, which is good and helpful. And I'll go through that in one of the podcasts coming up here. But I am going to talk about my personal journey a little bit more. So once I got pelvic floor PT myself, I found out I had a pelvic organ prolapse. And what that is, for me, it was called a cystocele. That's when your bladder hangs a little low. And I had this before I even had kids. I was diagnosed before I had kids because I had training. And, at one of the courses there, one of the most expert physical therapists said to me, "Oh, you have a grade 2 cystocele, which is a pelvic organ prolapse." And I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is why I am leaking so much and why I've always leaked. And it totally adds up to my history of really starting to leak when I was younger. I think my prolapse probably started when I, got hit in hockey. I took some pretty hard hits. It could have also started with improper breathing mechanics with heavy, heavy lifting. I used to do a ton of heavy lifting, deadlifts, squats, cleans, all those Olympic lifts and hits and plyometrics. And I never knew how to use my pelvic floor or breathing patterns in order to help protect my pelvic organs, which as a woman, especially before babies and really, I don't know, I would say from the gate, you should know how to lift while protecting your pelvic organs because you're susceptible for them not falling out. Everyone will say falling out, but you're susceptible to them to descending into the vaginal canal, which is what we call a pelvic organ prolapse. And so I officially had that before babies. I was concerned that could, affect my delivery, but there is no evidence that pelvic organ prolapse gets worse with vaginal delivery. It absolutely can, but there's no evidence to say it does. Then I had my first birth of Chloe, my daughter, who is now 5, and I was a pelvic floor PT at the time. And I was lucky because I did do some core work right away. As far as the 6 week is concerned, you don't necessarily have to, you have to listen to your OB and your midwife, but there are different core exercises like breathing and isometric activations that are safe to do from day one and really are protective and preventative to do from day one. And so that I knew that stuff. So I was able to do that. But where I messed up with Chloe, and I think this is where so many moms mess up. I know this is where so many moms mess up, is I was like so consumed with my physique before I had Chloe. I'd even done a fitness competition and got down to what was not a normal weight for me. And so I was obsessed with my physique and my weight in not a healthy way, I will tell you that. And so after I had her, I felt like I had to get back to the gym. I had to start running. I specifically remember my first run with Chloe at 6 weeks, and it was just awful. I don't even know how far I went, but I just had sharp pubic bone pain. Nothing felt right. And it was way too early for me to be running. And I can guarantee you that did not serve my pre-existing prolapse. So that was not the smart move. And when I see moms starting to run postpartum now, there are so many things to do and look at and restore before you actually get to a postpartum running routine. And we even have a specific one here in the office that we share with our clients to really help grade your return back to postpartum, to running after you have a baby. So I just did it way too soon and definitely paid the price. And so the other thing I want to share is that that's okay. And I messed up, but I was able to, get help for that and really work on my pelvic floor. At the time, throughout my journey, that was, 5 years ago, I truly believe like if you had a pelvic floor exam and it was all good to go, you could just go back to running. And now I have changed my tune. And I completely think that there is work that needs to be done regardless of whether you tore or not to help restore your pelvic floor, restore your breath patterns before you really get into a good rock solid routine. No matter how good your birth was, you're just, just because you get a check mark one visit from a PT doesn't mean that's enough at all to get back to doing your postpartum exercises or even your preconception exercises. So what you were doing before you were pregnant. So now I've learned the lesson the hard way, and have had my prolapse get worse after birth, that I am confident to say that that is not the answer. I've also had plenty of clients that come for just one checkup postpartum, and it's just not enough. Like, it is great and it's better than nothing. I will say that, but it is not enough. And I really outline the reasons why in the book, and you'll just see, like, it takes time to get rid of scar tissue. When you have a vaginal delivery, the muscle overstretches. Even if you don't tear and have stitches, you still have micro tears in the tissue because of this overstretching. And let's just say if you strained a hamstring, or tore a hamstring, you would absolutely have PT in order to relearn how to use that hamstring. And that takes time. That's not just like a one and done, okay, you're cleared, now you can go run a marathon. Like, it just doesn't work like that. And so it takes time, it takes holistic care, it takes a lot of what's popular in the pelvic floor world right now is like, oh, I'll just stick electrodes on you and teach you how to use your pelvic floor. And that's not cutting it. That's not enough, because the pelvic floor is one aspect of what's happened. You also have to deal with the rest of the body and really treat that holistically as well in order to help restore and get you ready for returning back to, everything that you love to do. So I'm going to leave that here with you today. Just like, I'm going to take you up to my birth with Chloe, that part of my personal journey. And then I will leave it there, and we'll get a little bit more into my experience with Kano, which was my second child, and then how I recovered from that specifically, and how I messed up with him again. And now really and then we'll dive in at that point in the next episode into how to really holistically heal from childbirth. So I hope you got something out of that today. One question I guess I didn't answer yet would be how did I find time to write this book? And it's just been this labor of love. I absolutely love sharing my ideas and techniques. The more I write things down, the more I start to see patterns in my own practice. And the more I do speaking engagements, and the more I speak, I start to put more things together for people, and everything flows so much better if I write it out first. So I found myself writing so much that I wanted to put it together for a book. So even if people aren't at one of our speaking events, or they don't get to hear my podcasts, or, all the different things, I wanted them to be able to still read it and still have access to what their care should look like after they have a baby, and really how to make your body the most efficient, how to prevent, breakdown later on. And that breakdown, which leads to breakdown in compensation, that leads to peeing your pants and achy joints and all those things that we want to avoid so we can age gracefully. So that's kind of how I started to write. And then the other piece of the puzzle is I put this down, this took 3 years, which is a little bit nuts to think that it actually took 3 years to write this book. But it was, just time. I finally decided that it was going to get out in 2020. I did this in 2019 too, but in 2020, I had decided in January, this book is getting out, and I started setting my alarm at 3 or 4 every single day, just to write get some organized. And so that's how I did it. Not saying that's healthy, but that's just for real what happened. And I had, my great team. I couldn't do anything I do without my great general manager, Devin. And so she's really helped me execute things like getting the pictures organized for the book and all that good stuff. So, and organizing the editor and, from there. So I'm super grateful that I had the opportunity to share my soul and my brain with you. And I hope you have a chance to read this book and really find out what it's all about, and get to know me. And even if you don't take, whatever you take from this book, whether it's like my personal story, one of my patients' personal stories, or whether it's, just the actual techniques or program that you take from this book, I hope it brings some type of value to your life to help you facilitate your own healing journey. All right. Thank you guys for being with me today. Bye.
The Edmonds Moms Room podcast is brought to you by Body Motion Physical Therapy. We help women through pregnancy and beyond so they can live active, confident, and healthy lives.